40 hours. After 40 hours, for example, they sign up for a shift, they're on Operation Stonegarden hours, there's nothing going on. Do they get to go home, or they have to wait until something happens?
Again, I think I understand your question. So after their 40-hour work week, if they're deployed for a Stonegarden operation, those operations are for a designated time period. So they would work that time period. So the time period,
but the time period is already contributing to an existing investigation, or is something that they're just waiting to happen?
No, the time period is set as a predetermined operation in conjunction with the federal partner. So we designate, say, Sonora Highway is at Stonegarden out for tomorrow night, and it's from 2000 to 0100 hours, or 2000, 8 o'clock at night until midnight. That's the Stonegarden hours. So they would work those 4 hours.
I think she's also asking one other thing. They don't sit around and wait. Stonegarden operations are proactive. That officer's job is during that time period that he has to work, is to be out there looking for things, not waiting for something to happen. They're out there working, trying to find problems.
So they're trying to find them, is not a already existing thing happening. That's the clarification I want to get to.
Okay, then yes, obviously any Stonegarden mission is going to be a proactive patrol of some kind. So we're out there trying to detect things and deter things.
Thank you.
Commissioner, sorry, Co-Chair McNichols wanted a comment, and then Commissioner Luna.
When it came to pulling stats, and this may be for Teresa with the grants, would you have been able to do it as quickly as you did had the Public Justice Committee that from the county from a year ago not asked us to start, or not asked the Sheriff's Office to start tracking some of those numbers? Had any work from previous requests made pulling the information that you provided for us? Has that made that easier for you guys to do, or?
Well, I'd say the majority of the information was available. I think as we've gone on, we've added things to the database in regards to the Commission's response or request for information.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Luna.
So, same regarding the data collection. Am I to understand you do not have an IT department or an IT person that manages the system?
IT manages our entire computer system. I mean, of all the databases and all of the law enforcement networks and everything. We have an IT section that is in charge of all that. But each individual division section, they all have their individual folders and sections under the P drive. And then in addition to that, we also have a records management section that houses all of the all the records in addition to the P drive that we have. So our records management section houses all records. P drive is just a working computer drive that has different subfolders to allow the different sections and units in the department a place to house information.
Okay. And as you were gathering the information requested by the sheriff, did you contact that IT department or anyone else with help in crunching the numbers?
No, because the data is there. It's a matter of just being able to find it on the P drive and be directed to either where it is or have knowledge of where it is and then pull that information. So I don't think we need to involve the IT department for that. No.
Okay, because Commissioner Parrish, I believe, was the one that said that not everybody else has access to the numbers or to the reports, but usually just, I guess, point of information, usually you can go to that department and they can go into the raw data and be able to develop ways to crunch the numbers.
Right. Our P drive, our IT department can set limitations on folders within the P drive, absolutely, like I said, but those that are need to have access to the P drive for either data input or data collection have the correct access. So we all have access and availability to that folder.
So you do have access to all the information, but it seems to me that we didn't get all the information.
And you have all the information now. You have all the information that you requested in front of you today.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Captain Ponzio? No? Okay, thank you very much, Captain. Do we have discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair, if I may, please.
Sir, please approach.
Hi, my name is John Stecky. I'm the Chief in charge of Support Bureau, and I wanted to offer some clarifying points. There were a couple questions that the sheriff wasn't able to get into some details. I know there was a question in regards to U9 visas. We do have a policy in place. Long and the short of it is those requests go to our Criminal Investigations Division commander, and they are vetted for the process. If that person that's applying for that visa meets the parameters, then it's approved and sent back. So we do have a process in place for the U9s. In regards to Commissioner Haney's question, bear with me just one second. In regards to body recoveries, we do keep that data. I know the sheriff didn't have it available, but in 2015, 42, and this is not all body recoveries across Pima County, but those in areas where we can anticipate it may be a migrant. In 2015, 42, in 2016, 32, 2017, 89, 2018, 65, and 2019 year-to-date is 16. And just, I think it's already been clarified, but just to add a couple of things to differentiate, because there was a question in regards to our records management system that is in fact Spillman. It is very different than P-Drive. As Captain was talking about a moment ago, the P-Drive is basically an electronic storage device, largely for work product within the Sheriff's Department. The DARs historically have been stored there. And I believe that there's concerns in regards to the lack of transparency on the sheriff's response. And I think he spoke to it earlier, where he was referring to pulling data from Spillman, that is our go-to on things where you can easily access information of this type of nature. However, the specific questions of your concern, it's difficult to extract it from Spillman. Now, a more difficult extraction is from the actual forms themselves, the DARs, which are stored on the P-Drive, that's correct. And as Captain Ponzio discussed, it does take time. And I think the sheriff wanted to make sure he gave the most accurate and timely information possible. Quite honestly, I'll take responsibility for not presenting that information further, and making sure the sheriff knew in his response that we could extract this from the hand-created data. So that's my fault for not clarifying that for the sheriff. He was trying to be as transparent as he could with the information that he had. And so I believe that the data from the DARs that you requested is being provided. It's not, it wasn't the sheriff's design to lack that transparency or conceal anything. We have it, we're open. In fact, our intent is to post this data on our website. In fact, with our Rural Safety Initiative, it is posted on our website for all to view. So that information is available. Apologies. Again, I'll take responsibility for not insisting that be extracted. He wanted to use what we find to be the most reliable data, which is within the Spillman system. That is our actual records management system, as opposed to a work product storage device, which is the P-Drive. So.
Thank you, Chief Stuckey?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it? Okay. So I guess Sheriff Napier's response for being accurate and timely was to tell me that the data were not captured and unavailable. But thank you very much. So do we have more discussion among commissioners, and then we can take our vote, and then we can move on to the next one. Commissioner Garcia.
No, never mind.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do we have to make a motion for discussion?
It's already been.
The motion is on the floor. We're having discussion before.
I'm not sure if this would be up for discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Owen.
Chairman Serrano, please.
Oh.
I mean, sorry, not Chairman.
Chairman.
Used to be. Commissioner.
I'm not sure if this would be a motion or just part of discussion, but due to the fact that there's been a history in this commission of misrepresenting our votes out in the community, can we do a roll call when we do vote for this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Commissioner Garcia.
Well, I just want to, I was going to ask a question, but it really isn't a question. We know full well that we've wanted this kind of information for a long time. It's not a shock. It's not a surprise that we're interested in this. I think it was Commissioner Nichols that, oh, you know, we've never captured this, we've not been told. I mean, come on, we've had these problems in Pima County for a long time. I'm talking about issues of racial profiling and other data that has to be collected. It's not brand new, and so what I'm saying is that Operation Stonegarden grants continue and further the racial profiling. There's no question about it. Look at the responsibilities. They have to be part of saturation patrols. They have to do interdiction operations to have reasonable suspicion stops of people that may look undocumented. And they have.
That's not what it says.
And
what
it's,
you just said is false. It says reasonable suspicion stops. It does not say about the
Commissioner
way they
Parrish,
look.
you can
reasonable
have the floor after
suspicion
Commissioner Garcia.
stops, exactly,
Does
of
it say anything about the way they
potential.
look?
I'm sorry?
Does it say anything about the way they look? The answer is no.
Reasonable suspicion stops of potential undocumented aliens.
Of potential. Did it say anything about the way they look, did it? It's the
You
same
tell me,
stop that I
exactly.
just pulled over.
Tell me. You're not gonna get pulled over like, you know, my family members are, but don't, you know, this is within the responsibilities, and based on what we've lived, I mean, it's really problematic. I am against, of course, even the specific responsibilities. Let's face it, money runs everything, including drugs. And does Stonegarden get to any of the money people? No, they never do. And you're gonna say, well, that's not part of the federal thing, but really, that's what does it. The banks and all of that keeps the drug rolling. We talk about fentanyl and such, that was created also by the legal opioid business, and now we have this. What I'm saying to you is Pima County has its challenges, and we should not be adding on a collaborative attempt and with the federal immigration authorities, and that's what this is. It is to collaborate with them. It says it right here. I don't really understand why it's listed. It's listed right here, why we're arguing about that. We've got a lot of problems. We didn't even address the indirect cost of Pima County. The sheriff talks about it and then says, well, we get indirect benefits, so the helicopter to save somebody, and therefore we should know. Transparency doesn't just mean finding out after the fact. It's before we go in. Transparent means our local government should be involved in this, our federal government should be involved with this. That's part of transparency too. Because in the end, you know that money drives, and if the feds are giving us the money, we have to do Fed work. And as the gentleman said, we should be committed to Pima County. And we have to stop talking out of both sides of our mouth and say, yes, we're going to support border security measures that the federal government says, and then says, no, we're not doing any border security measures. We're just helping out the people in in Ajo and in Green Valley because we don't have enough sheriffs. We're saying both things at once. And so, as you know, I'm against us receiving these grants. I think it's only creating more insecurity, less instead of more security for Pima County.
Commissioner Parrish, I promise you the floor.
I'm actually going to vote for this. I know it's a big shock to everybody, but it's important that we understand what we're really saying here. Thank you. It's important that we really understand what we're saying here, because you know, we do have a lot of problems in this community. Some of them are things like fentanyl and child sex trafficking of women and children, just people trafficking for other purposes. And, you know, we all talk and we listen to the news media. Everybody says, I'm in favor of border security, but they don't want to build the wall. And this is not the wall. This is about not only border, but community safety. 70,000 Americans died last year of opioid overdoses, and a lot of that fentanyl came through Pima County. And because we've got issues, we want to throw up our hands and say, you know what, I'm sorry that 70,000 people died, but we're not going to do anything. We know the drug cartels are working hard in Pima County, but we're not going to do anything. And by doing anything, we're accepting money from the federal government so we can support operations to keep Americans, non-Americans, and other people safe. You know, the sheriff talked a little bit about people giving up. and running out and flagging us down. And during my career, that happened a lot. Sometimes it was on a Stonegarden operation, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes I'd be out by Sassabee doing a Stonegarden operation, and you know the first person on scene to a car accident and people are hurt and bad? It's a Border Patrol agent. And he's there taking care of our citizens until we can get there. And maybe they're not citizens, but he's there, he or she is there, working hard for the public safety. So for anybody to say putting more cops into the rural areas is a bad thing, is not paying attention to reality. What they are doing, they should work for the cartel because they're the best speakers on their behalf, because the cartels want us to vote no. The cartels don't want border security. The cartels don't mind 70,000 Americans dying every year. They don't mind when children and women get trafficked for sexual purposes or any other purpose. Well, I mind. And I'm going to vote that we approve this. And if you don't mind, then vote the other way. But it doesn't make any sense because we've got problems, we're going to throw in the towel. That doesn't make sense. And that's not who we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to throw in the towel. We're supposed to be working every day to get better and better on moral issues as well. But we don't throw in the towel and victimize our own citizens. Thanks.
More discussion? Commissioner Lynn?
Yes, hi. Well, many of you already know this is my first day on the commission. So, yay. I did read up a lot, and one of my main things was transparency. And I said, I just want to see the numbers. I want to see the benefits. I'm disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I really wanted transparency, and I'm not feeling like we're being respected as commissioners, because we need all the facts in order to make an informed and intelligent decision. And and I did ask the sheriff if anything would change if Stonegarden was rejected, and he said no, everything's going to continue as is. So I'm not sure I have a lot of motivation to vote for it. I'm concerned about transparency. I don't think it's going to happen. I wish it were. I wish I felt confident about it. And unfortunately, perhaps for the sheriff's deputies, I'm going to want to vote no on this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chairman.
I think ultimately, every police officer who goes to work wonders how he can make a difference for a day. Nobody goes to work and say, how can I go make someone's life miserable? In the midst of investigating collisions or someone being a victim of a crime, you're not concerned about whether they're here legally, illegally, documented, undocumented. You're concerned about making sure that they have the help that they need at that time. The ultimate goal for law enforcement is voluntary compliance with our laws. If we have voluntary compliance with the laws of the land, there is no need to have police officers because people know what the laws are. A police officer in the state of Arizona is sworn. He takes an oath of office. It doesn't matter if you're Tucson PD, Phoenix PD, Patagonia Marshal's Office, Santa Cruz, Pima County Highway Patrol. You take an oath of office to protect and uphold the United States Constitution and its laws. You take an oath to hold up the Arizona State Constitution and its laws. You go through the same certification. So if you're a Nogales police officer in Flagstaff, Arizona, you can take enforcement action. You have the same authority as a Flagstaff guy has. It is a statewide certification. The very first thing that people cut when it comes to staffing and things like that in law enforcement tends to be the community outreach and the education factor. We want our people to be educated. Guys who are cops that I know have given their lives to being involved in their communities and trying to make a difference. So where something like Stonegarden helps is it does allow the sheriff's budget to be supported, where those monies fall on the board of supervisors to decide, do we want this equipment and this overtime to come from the county budget, the state budget, or the federal budget? That is their decision to make. We have a sheriff who's willing to work with people that most sheriffs wouldn't be willing to work with. We have information that's not necessarily readily available through Spillman, but can be made available through extra effort. And I think ultimately, we need to make a decision on how we can best help the people and the citizens of Pima County and voluntary compliance with the laws. That's the first thing. And then if that doesn't work, we need to change the laws, because the police officer is going to enforce the laws that he's upheld to enforce. So with that being said, I think we should take a vote. I think we pretty much know where most of us stand. So.
I did want to say something.
Commissioner, sorry.
Thank you, Kevin, for bringing up the law and constitution. And I think the constant notion that those of us here that have a problem with Stonegarden, the constant notion that we are saying that police officers have a secret agenda, and this, I think, is not absolutely true. Really, here's the thing about DHS. They're not about following the law. DHS, and what we've seen under this administration, is that what they do is they follow policy. And policy is changing at the whim of the administration. DHS is not out there upholding the Constitution by putting children in cages and families under bridges. So while we may be able to have conversations with the sheriff, and while he as a person or in his morality might be the kind of person that will stick to what the law is, the law of the land, we are going into an agreement with DHS that has seen children this year, 2, die under their care. Small, tiny children, like my child, die. Horrible deaths under their care. What we're saying is that at this moment, DHS is rogue. And this program doesn't have any metrics, it doesn't have any goals, it doesn't have any form of accountability. So what we're saying is that right at this moment, Stonegarden, as an operation, we should not have that. And we understand that law enforcement is for enforcing laws, but DHS is not out there enforcing laws. They're out there enforcing the whim of a racist precedent that is vehemently xenophobic. And 1-point-something million that we're putting here is not going to cripple the sheriff's department. We know that because we know the budget. So I think we have to make distinctions between what our Constitution says, what our Arizona law says, and what DHS is out there forcing police departments and their own rank and file to do. And they are forcing them to do inhumane things to families and to young children. And that is why this is absolutely political, all due respect to Sheriff Napier, but politics aside, no, I will not put politics aside, because DHS is all about politics. It's all about politics. And as we saw the number of dead bodies that they're encountering, having Operation Stonegarden hasn't stopped dead bodies from piling up. It does not deter families who are desperate from coming. And then what we also see at the border is the massive criminalization of refugees. That's another thing that's not part of our Constitution, and might I remind everyone, it's against international treaty laws. It is absolutely legal to seek asylum, and we are caging people. We are destroying people in the process. And I, as a 25-year resident of Tucson, refuse to take Stonegarden money because I understand the realities of that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any other comments? So I just wanted to speak a little bit. Our men and women of the Pima County Sheriff's Department in uniform, they are ours, are already stressed to the max. They're pulling overtime to cover regular shifts. They're covering jail shifts at the Pima County Jail. And there's talk within the department of compulsory 12-hour shifts for these officers. Is this fair to them to put more of a burden on them to do more overtime? Overtime and for ERE, pensions. We've been told by the sheriff himself, and as Commissioner Luna mentioned, that this job will get done. And I deeply appreciate Commissioner Parrish's passion about things like fentanyl and methamphetamine in our communities. But we've been assured that this job will continue to be done. These drugs will continue to be interdicted. So as we look at an already stressed staffing level here, we don't need to be Border Patrol's job. We're at 72% staffing for patrol, and Border Patrol has 4,500 agents in the Tucson sector. Not to mention the Office of Inspector General report that had serious issues with the Stonegarden grant. 7 major points that said the Stonegarden grant needs to have better accountability, there's no measure on its effectiveness, and it needs to improve. Lastly, I want to talk about transparency. Sheriff Napier himself says that he wants transparency. He says he's committed to it. He says that he sees that there is value in this commission, and he wants to provide that to us. My questions that I posed to him were based on information we had been given last year. These were not obscure. These were not hard to understand. And they were things pulled directly from the daily activity reports that we had from 2016 and 2017. This should not have been something very difficult to procure, although there was some time involved, and I appreciate that. In his response, I wasn't told, hold on, this is going to take a full day to get it, but I'll get it to you. It wasn't a conversation. I don't know exactly what you mean, which apples, which oranges do you mean here? This was, we have not previously captured these data, when we know we have previously been supplied them last year by the Criminal Justice Reform Unit. I didn't ask for anything extra. I asked for exactly what we had been given last year. I have deep concerns about transparency. And if we're moving forward, I would have to act on faith that all of a sudden this would change. I don't have faith in that. We need to be shown that there's this cooperation and this commitment to transparency first. And for these 3 reasons, that's why I am going to vote no for the Stonegarden.